Good evening, ladies and gents, wherever you may be around the world, and welcome to Splendid Isolation number 178, which is going to be the last one before the British general election next week. Excuse me while I do some boomer tech.
What's the boomer tech? What's happened?
Good evening to our guests this evening. I'd like to make a special who is our special, obviously. Hopefully we'll have an interesting stream. Tim Wilms in the chat says, I hope I'm not a crazy freak. Tim is not. Tim's a pretty good guy on the whole. I've been following Tim for a long time. I've been in the chat on his streams for a long time, and I'm going to be doing a special election night stream with Tim on the evening of the British general election, which I wouldn't be doing if he wasn't a good guy. So yeah, Tim, how you going, mate?
Hello, Iron Duke. Good to join you for a Splendid Isolation, which is very early morning in Australia, and looking forward to our results stream, which will be on Friday morning Australian time. It's the final countdown now, and one thing we do know is that finally Rishi Sunak, aka Roland Rat, will no longer be the Prime Minister, which is 1+.
Indeed. Britain does not need an Indian banker as its Prime Minister. I would definitely agree with that. But yeah.
It's been a disaster, and the Conservatives who just decided for some reason he was the golden boy, the chosen one, backstabbed Boris Johnson, even though he was a liar, a coward, and a serial philanderer. He was still the best that they had. I mean, if he was still leading the party, they'd probably lose, but it wouldn't be an extinction level loss.
That is possibly true. Yeah, possibly. Look, I detest Alexander Johnson. I have no time for him. At all. Sunak did not have to call this election. He could have left it for at least another 6 months. The fact he called it now, I think, says more about Sunak and the so-called, in air quotes, Conservative Party than it does about anything else. But, it's just me.
It sounds like he called it so lots of Conservatives could win a couple of £100 on the election date betting.
Yeah, there was a lot of Conservative betting. This has been exposed. Personally, I think anyone who does that should not even be allowed to stand as an MP. That's my idea, but maybe I'm old-fashioned in that regard.
It's like this has been a scandal-plagued government, particularly the doozy sex scandals, and this is just in the campaign. This is just basically sums them all up.
Yeah, I hate and detest the so-called Conservative Party under the Indian banker Rishi Sunak, who was rejected at least twice by even
by the members.
so-called
Backstabbed Liz Truss
Conservative
as
Party
well.
members. Yeah. I mean, I'll tell you, like Morgoth, who's been on this stream a couple of times. Morgoth is a good guy as far as I'm concerned. He's a genuine British patriot. And Morgoth put out a tweet on Twitter, /X, a little while ago that said, remember, boys, or remember, people, 0 seats is our aim. So I put that onto my stream. I redid it, but I did it as a quote tweet. And I said, yeah, vote for Argent reform. And I was very, very happy to see that Morgoth liked my tweet. So, yeah, Morgoth, at least, is not one of those idiots who thinks that somehow or another the Labour Party are going to be better, because they're not, you know.
No, but I believe that the 0 seats movement, the ones who are, it depends on which seat you are. Obviously, if Labor's going to, if there's a chance that Reform will win your seat, or if it's certain that Labor or another party is going to win that seat, then vote Reform. But if it's close, vote, because it's first past the post, vote tactically, either Labor or Lib Dem, to make sure that the Conservatives are as close to 0 seats as possible.
All I would say to that, Tim, is that if the Labour Party said to me, or the Greens, or the Lib Dems said to me, we'll give you £10,000 to vote for us, I would not do so. But that's just me. It's only me. Like, I just would never vote for those people. But that is just me. Anyway, I'm going to take us back to our format for this stream. I'm going to ask if people have a first subject they want to bring up, because obviously anyone who is a guest on this stream is allowed to bring up any topic they would like to. I will give Tim a while to think about this, and therefore I will ask Mitch. Mitch, did you have a first subject for this stream?
I don't know if I should just mention my experience of this election, which is essentially, I'll be honest, I'm looking at this and I go, I think there's so much energy outside the two parties that it's kind of hardening to look at. I mean, even on the left, there's a lot of energy outside the Labour Party, whereas like Workers' Party or Green Party or Lib Dems. I know I'll go up to Stafford, for example, which is up a county town, like somewhat more affluent compared to my area, blah blah blah. And I'm seeing Lib Dems more active there than they were last time. Then there's Green Party, who, I go into my local cafe to have a bacon sarnie, and opposite my table, of course, the Greens, which is a bunch of young women basically around my age group. And I think I'm positive of this, actually. I was able to have an all-right conversation with them because I was just interested because I was sat next to a bunch of boomers who were canvassing with me, and we're just like, why are you in reform? And it's like, I said, blah blah, I want PR, or I want the Tories 0 seats. Like, I pretty much just said all the stuff that we all say without revealing too much of my power level, to put it lightly.
Yeah.
So, and we're pretty cool about it. They didn't spend their time spitting at me, so that's an improvement compared to Labour. The Labour, it's more like the Tories and the Labour are those two parties where I don't think anyone I know, I haven't come across anyone who actually likes either of those parties. So I just I do think there's a lot of change in the air.
I get the
I've had a
impression
similar conversation.
that Labour are really unpopular, but they're not as unpopular as the so-called, in air quotes, conservatives. All the popularity, in air quotes, of the Labour Party is just because everyone hates the Conservatives. That's what I think. AI, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I've had a similar conversation as well with people who are really railing against the Conservatives at this election. And it's usually, I mean, I think they were these ones were Liberal Democrats, and it's it's kind of a, oh, you hate the Tories too, you must be really liberal minded, and it's like, yeah, liberal minded, yeah. But I mean, at the end of the day, this is what is said to be like, this is just political pantomime for a lot of these people. In reality, this is just the low level politics, and it's not real. I mean, in any real sense, it's just a different flavor of liberalism at the end of the day that you people are involved with. But I think that it does speak to a more. I mean, I think I mean, if you think back to the maybe some of you may not know. I imagine most of you probably know this, but in Justinian's Rome, you had the Nika riots, and that was triggered between the blue faction and the green factions, which was these sporting clubs, sporting clubs. And a lot of people who talk about democracy and that sort of stuff might like to sort of reference that, and it is true, because while there was like some genuine political differences, like even on a religious level, between the established Orthodoxy and the Methodite churches, that it did come down to basically just like the bare basic, blue, green, or in America's case, red, blue, or red, blue in this country. And so I do think it does speak to a sort of just a primitive human mind. Oh, this is my tribe, this is my enemy's tribe, or something. You could say, well, in the grander scale in this country, it's actually between progressive people who are progressive and people who are maybe into the counter jihad stuff on the other side. But all those political divisions have been sort of breaking down now, and it's
AI. Can we please stop calling left-wing wanks progressive? They're not. They're out.
They are progressive. No, they are progressive.
They're out to destroy us, man.
They believe that that society is one endless aim is progressing to the most egalitarian society. That is their ultimate aim, and that's what unifies them. It's what unifies the Tories in that grouping as well. What unites most people on the right in this country, anyway. I mean, I'm not a egalitarian. I'm completely opposed to that worldview entirely. Like many people in the chat here. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, regardless, at the end of the day, it's I think at the end of the day that I'm more interested in what will come out of the election than the election itself, because I mean, I know Labour's going to win it. I think that much is clear at this point. It'd be interesting to see what happens with, it'd be interesting to see what happens with reform, and also what happens as a result of reform as well. Will there be, like in Europe? Because remember, in Europe, you had your sort of populist, like establishment friendly type parties who did well a few years ago, and then because of that, there's been like this hunger among that voter base to go even further into the nationalistic sphere. I mean, in Hungary, for example, I regularly point out that Viktor Orban, there is a party to the right of him which are even more nationalistic. than his, and so and they do quite well in like local elections, and same could be said. I'm just trying to think. What was he? In Italy as well. You know, again, similar thing. He went from Lega Nord to Brotherhood.
You mean someone to the right of that goal? Okay.
Well, I think in Italy's example, you are literally going into the fascism territory. Like when I say fascism, I don't mean like the banded round term fascism. I mean the actual Italian.
I get you.
The actual Italian conception of it. But yeah, I mean, regardless, I'm interested to see what will happen. I'm also interested to see what will happen with like parties in this country, like Homeland Party, as well as a result of this. You know, how they will
all true.
come through.
Totally agree, mate. Count Duckegg in the chat wants our thoughts on the actor scandal, which, as far as I'm concerned, is just Channel 4 hiring an actor to try and slag off Farage. But what I will say is, Adamant, what do you think, mate?
So I'm a little bit more on the fence on this, actually.
All right, mate. Carry on.
There's a lot of stuff that doesn't add up. I do get why people are suspicious. And another thing, for instance, is that so one of the things that would probably actually I think change the narrative on this from our perspective would be if the police actually press charges against the guy.
Never gonna happen. Never.
Well, this is the thing. They're currently saying they're looking into it. If they press charges, it means he probably was just one of us who made a comment at a time and a place where he shouldn't have. Got lulled into a false sense of security.
Using his actor voice, yes.
Well, I'm not so convinced by that argument. It kind of it just kind of sounds like his regular voice.
All right.
But he was, of course. The thing is, though, right? Because I've done like some editing, not obviously for any large paid outfits like Channel 4, but for small projects here and there. And like even if you look at Channel 4's previous efforts on this, if you go back to their Dispatches show where they covered patriotic alternative, every time they'd bring up a character right in their show, they would bring up the whole background of that person, any trouble they'd had with the police in the past, previous affiliations, everything. They obviously have researchers that go over all this stuff, and it's like if you put these secret cameras out and you get these people into these organizations, that's a lot of time and effort you're putting in, a lot of money you're putting in. And let's say you walk away from it and the only recording you have is of this guy, and you don't really want to go back in there and put in a whole lot new effort. But it also just seems like a really stupid mishandling. They must have known this guy was an actor. That would have come up in their research. And you would think that they would want to like get ahead of that by saying this guy is a paid actor. He's even worked for Channel 4 before, but he's not affiliated with us now. But they didn't do any of that, which seemed really weird. Maybe they just don't think the accusation would bite them that hard, and therefore they don't care. But at the same time,
Adamant, they think that the idea that he's racist is way worse than anything else. Whereas most ordinary human beings are a bit racist. Has to be
but
said.
like, for example, right, Royal Biscuits in chat just said right-wing actors tend to be pushed out of those circles. Now, this is another thing I kind of thought of, is that if you think back to Lawrence Fox was kicked out of Equity, the acting union, literally the next day. I don't know. I haven't seen anywhere that says this guy's had his Equity membership cancelled.
I've seen that this guy was quite well known as a left-wing actor.
I haven't seen any evidence of that.
I'm not going to pretend for a second I've seen evidence of it, but I have seen several people.
Yeah, I've seen people say it, but I haven't been able to corroborate that anywhere.
This dickhead was known as a lefty. So, yeah.
Atom, as I say, just to interject it, because I do know, because I've he's registered on a site called Mandy
Yeah, the
.com,
acting agency.
acting agency.
I think
And
he's
the reason
on multiple websites, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He's got biographies on multiple websites,
yeah,
acting
I think
websites.
yeah, and also stage production, where I think he's part of a stage production group on Facebook. Um I've also been informed, and I mean the reason I know is because I did have a profile on Mandy when I was in university, because I want to do like the extra stuff, because it's from, basically you can do extras to actually being maybe like a side character in on the stage, or TV production or something like that. You get to say like the odd line. From my understanding, one thing that I would say is, because I looked into his profile, is he does seem to have quite a bit of work with Channel 4 and other acting agencies,
He's
which
worked
are
with Channel 4 in the past. They knew who he was.
but
Though the thing is, Channel 4, they don't produce anything they put to air. They always outsource to a production
Yeah.
company. So it's this Lee Sorrell media company who's done. Is it is it Dispatches under the banner that they've done?
Yeah.
So there is this sort of separation that Channel 4 has between what they put to air and all the different production companies.
It's a fake separation, though, Tim. It's a fake separation.
I
It's
know,
a
and this is
pretend
why
separation.
Channel 4, they have plausible deniability. They've put out all the statements, not Lee Sorrell Media.
I mean, Tim is right, because
Yep.
if anything was to get, let's just say that this was going to come out, this would be a big story, that this dispatches program deliberately falsified information, that this guy was not part of reform, this was just a hit job, a political hit job, and that this was all come crashing down. Channel 4 would probably come out and say the producer on the show misled us. This we're never working with them again, and that this is they would distance themselves easily. One thing I would say that has been interesting from this, and I've noticed this for the last couple of days now, is I'm not seeing any reporting in too many publications or even news outlets like your Sky and your BBC and ITV about this particular story. They did cover it initially, but I'm not seeing anything more from it. No more like follow up, because these sorts of stories, especially the racism accusations, they like to go on for a couple of days to get some mileage out of it, especially if they're attacking Farage and reform. So I think there is an element that they know this story is potentially too hot effectively to handle, because it is just very suspicious. And whether or not this was a deliberate paid actor job, or it was some producer who was because don't forget, a lot of these people who do work at Channel 4, who are various producers, or people like that, who do have close connections with the Labour Party and other left-wing groups. So it's not beyond like Hope Not Hate were caught out helping Labour in a constituency. It's not beyond possibility that there is some shenanigans. But I would say, I don't believe, if there was political involvement in this story, I don't believe it was Labour. I wouldn't believe it'd be Labour that would orchestrate this. I actually think it could have been the Conservatives, because
Well, they're the ones that
Perfectly.
have been going after a Farage and reform in the aftermath. So Rishi Sunak played the race card and said, as a father, it also hurt me, and also Kemi Badenoch, who's also playing the race card in her reaction to
Is
David
Kemi
Tennant.
Badenoch? Is
and
Kemi
Savage Avid as well.
Yes.
Look, is Kemi Badenoch an Anglo-Celtic British woman? No, she's not. Therefore, she's not British. Is
I
Rishi
think she's
Sunak? Anglo-Celtic
she's the chosen
guy?
successor to
No,
Sunak.
he's not. Therefore, he's not British. I'm just giving my view on this stuff. Kemi Badenoch and Rishi Sunak are not British. They are not Anglo-Celtic. They are not British. I don't care what they think. I don't care if they're offended.
The reason why
Obviously, nobody should do anything bad to them. But you know what? Those people should go home.
Leave my base brown Enoch alone.
The reason why I'm not addressing what you're saying,
Thank
Iron
you,
Duke,
Alan.
is
Thank you.
because it's not relevant to the my analysis. In that, I've noticed that the conservative shills and the intellectual dark web, they're all rallying behind Kemi Badenoch as the successor to Rishi Sunak, because there is this. We saw it with particularly Konstantin Kisin of Trigonometry attacking Farage over Ukraine, talking about NATO and EU expansion provoking Putin, though he still holds responsibility for the invasion of Ukraine, saying, oh, he's going to lose all support of the boomers. There's this rallying to save the conservatives, basically, I think, to just perpetuate the grift, because if anything changes, if anything radical changes, if Reform become the official opposition, then things could actually change, and that's the right-wing grift, conservative grift.
That needs to
They
be
won't have the
stopped.
villains anymore,
Needs
because
to be
things might
stopped.
actually change. So this is why and Kemi Badenoch is like perfect for them to, continue the safe
She's not
arguments
British.
about
Tim,
we need to protect
she
women.
is
We know
not British. She isn't Anglo-Celtic. She's not British. And actually, she should have to go home. That's my view. Kemi, she should have to go home.
but
In due course.
but the reality is she's not. She is is the chosen successor for the Conservatives, because, well,
Don't care.
DEI has worked for them
She's
so
got
far.
nothing to do with me or any of the people who have lived in Britain for the last 10,000 years, who I am intimately related to. She needs to go home. She's not British.
Depending on what the results are, like how many seats Reform get come next week, there is a big chance that the Conservative Party, even if they, if they get below 100 seats, that would be disastrous, because
really hope that. We really hope that. Yeah.
And if Reform can pick up, I've seen polls ranging between 7 and 20. There is a scenario where the Conservative Party itself, as an institution itself, just straight up collapses, and then collapses into Reform.
We must hope that. Yeah.
Though they're all basically saying now, and cleverly, and now Badenoch is saying this, over our dead body, are we going to merge or allow Farage into the Conservatives?
Badenoch needs to go.
Yeah, you keep saying that. Do you know? Do you know something kind of funny? Actually, is that a lot of the Labour supporters in Clacton are planning to tactically vote for the Tories.
Yeah, I heard that as well, because
that makes sense. Because Labour has no. Labour has
for all their big talk about how evil the Tories are and how they've literally, according to these people, killed hundreds of thousands of people with austerity. They will vote for the Tories because they don't want Nigel Farage to be on their TV set every week.
What a surprise!
You know,
What a
it's
surprise!
it's politics of vibes. It's so fucking shallow.
But there's a theory that Labour put in that sort of anti-white black that anti-white black guy as a way of getting basically it just like making sure that Farage wins in that seat. I mean that's one theory. Because
Can I
Yeah,
ask?
have that guy in that
apparently
seat.
they've put. Apparently,
Guys,
that
can I
guy.
just ask something? Do you really think that Farage will merge with the Conservatives, in air quotes, the so-called Conservatives?
I
I think
don't
that this,
think he
yeah,
will.
yeah,
Alright.
yeah.
I'd say
I
going
think he could.
off
Yeah.
of historical patterns, he likes to pick up what he thinks is like star power. You know, he likes to pick up these big names from the Tories. He kind of relishes in it, which is a silly strategy. I know why he thinks that. It's kind of, you know, it's a bit of an old school political mindset. But
Yeah,
I mean, really, if you wanted to turn reform into something positive, you would not allow anyone to come over from the Tories beyond like councillor level. And
well
then you
said,
would
man. Well said.
because there's enough. That's the other thing as well. There's more than enough latent talent. I mean, you do have to dig a little bit, but there's more than enough latent talent amongst the grassroots anyway that you can nurture into
Agreed.
something good.
Agreed.
Though probably the most high-profile ex-conservatives to be part of reform, and she was a Brexit MEP, Anne Widdecombe. I quite enjoy her contributions when I'm flicking through what's on Talk TV and GB News. She's always,
she's pretty
I
good.
think,
And
on
Widdecombe is
on the
pretty
money.
good. Yep. Yeah, she's all right.
But doesn't she get caught up in a lot of
Widdecombe.
like this was kind of a weakness of UKIP as well going back, was that they ended up with all these people that had come over from the Tories, which did include Anne Widdecombe, and they all had their own little pet peeves that they used to pursue. There was sort of no unifying vision.
I mean, Asmin, one thing I would say is one of the problems that, I mean, that was a problem, but one of the problems that, and this is a universal thing in the right and the West, is that there is this thing that you could learn from, you know, those on the sort of left. You see it with the recent Palestinian protests. It's quite a good tactic is you don't engage. So if you with like UKIP, when it's like the accusations of racism or being against gay marriage or whatever it's been in the past, you know, they'll go through people. Farage has done this. He'll go through loops and everything to try and debate, you know, and as we've seen time and again online, the classic example of this would be like your Dave the Distributus against that half-wit streamer a few months ago.
What, the corn on the cob?
Yeah, Corn the Cob guy. Yeah. There's a point where you just go, the time for the debate is over. We're not debating. We're just going to do it. We're just doing it, and you just don't debate them, and you don't engage in even acknowledging. And I think maybe for the racism thing that's been going on with the story we mentioned previously, it'd be interesting to see what would happen if the response from Farage was, "I'm not talking about it because it didn't happen. He's a paid actor," and just straight up reset a narrative, redefine narrative. I mean, in many ways, Trump.
That's pretty much what Farage did.
And
say
Farage
about
has
that guy.
done has the way that he has reacted to this, focusing on this Andrew Parker, and I noticed that Andrew Parker, his profiles have disappeared now, and it's interesting that he hasn't threatened legal action against people who claiming Farage or anyone else that, well, the implication that somebody has hired him because
God, Farage had a pro-British person supporting him. That's as far as I was concerned, all that was happening. And Farage rightly turned around and said, well, look, do you know what? No one in reform was paying him. And, well, tough shit, basically. And that should be the attitude of everybody. You know? I don't care if this guy was a con from Channel 4, which I strongly suspect he was. But even if he was, what's that got to do with Farage? And you know what? If someone calls you a racist, if people who call me a racist, I laugh. Because every human being is a racist. We have to stop this nonsense that
When
someone calls you a racist. And it's the worst thing in the whole world. Nonsense. Go away. Get fucked. Excuse me. Carry on, Arman. I'm sorry.
there was a Joe Media, I think it was filming on the streets of Clacton. This was a week and a half ago, maybe. Maybe even
week
2
when
weeks ago.
Farage declared. So that was
Yeah.
3 weeks ago, I think now.
Yeah, it was a little while ago. It was before I went away. And yeah, and this guy was like, "Oh, people call you a racist." He's like, "Oh, that's so boring," or something like that. And I thought, yes, that is kind of like unironically the attitude. Like, I remember when that SNP guy during the leadership debates called Farage racist, and you just heard Farage off at the side be like, "Oh, is that what you got?" Like,
I mean, the thing though is that there are people, there are like segments of society. I mean, I know we say like boomer worldview, but there is like these sort of spiritual boomers who are not necessarily within that age group, but they would be Gen Xers and everything else across a wide range. And we saw it with like the question. You probably see snippets of the Question Time debate, quote unquote, with Farage. And these people are mentally sort of stuck in the early 2000s era, peak wank 2000s era. And the thing though is that those sorts of attacks that would tactics that would there was levied against Nick Griffin back in the day on Question Time just doesn't work today, because the world has moved on from that. The world has become more radical. People don't, but people have
care anymore.
People have been radical. The radicalization has happened. People have been radicalized. People are now seeing reality for what it is. That this reality that these liberals have created is as the saying goes, a dangerous fantasy, and so it doesn't work anymore. And I
also think that's why the Channel 4 documentary, whatever you want to call it, has fallen flat, because it's not 10 years ago when this sort of expose had more of an effect on UKIP at the time. It's obviously it is eaten up by the activists and the elitists, and two of those Question Time questioners have been revealed to be activists. So
I know in the first leadership debate there was one guy that they kept zooming in on, who had these like really over the top reactions to everything Farage was saying, and it turned out later that he was he like worked for a council for like a Labour council somewhere.
Do you know what's really funny? If you find old footage of Ceausescu, the Romanian communist leader, they used to do that. It was very common. They would have like selected party members, and every time because he had like a bit of a bike, he was a bit of a senile git as well, like Biden. He would have like his odd moments where he would has like some weird senile moment, and they would zoom in on like the activists like nodding and agreeing or clapping or doing some sort of over the top gesture. So every time when I saw that when I saw that at the debate, that's where my mind took me. I was like, oh, it's sort of that similar tactic.
They do this all the time on every single mainstream media thing that you watch. Like, it's like, oh, the Pakistanis were raping and being really vile to English girls as young as 11, but we'll pretend that didn't really happen, And by the way, when that was going on, the director of public prosecutions was Sir Keir Starmer. He got his knighthood for making sure almost none of those Pakistani guys went to jail, which he did.
Well,
Only if you.
That's all of that. His questionable conduct and non-conduct as the director of public prosecutions has been memory hold. So he has got quite,
Yeah.
I think, a good run, Sir Keir Starmer, with not much scrutiny on
Yeah, people
himself.
pretend he's a good guy, and there's no
And when
evidence whatsoever he's a good guy.
there have been in the past like a few conservative. I mean, I think it was Lee Anderson or someone like that who did bring up. I can't remember who it was. There was somebody either in the it was Brexit Party back in the day, or one of the Conservative MPs, who brought up that very point that you just mentioned, Andrew, that he was director of public prosecutions at CPS for the help knew about the grooming gangs. There was one famous case that the CPS wouldn't prosecute because they said there was not enough evidence, even though one of the girls had a baby with it was they were aware. But when that was referenced, I was pointed out, you had all out like total establishment united, but from like the Tory graft down, attack to basically say this isn't true, this is lies, this is like Russian propaganda, this is personal lies and attacks. And so you can find certain subjects where if it goes against a certain standing the elite have, you'll be directly you'll have like the whole way to the establishment come crashing down on top of you and attacked. And you just what they do is they basically attack, isolate you, and then the isolation of you is the way that they silence you. And they did it. I mean, the other example, and I'm not doing this to like defend Liz Truss or anything, but the narrative is that Liz Truss nearly bankrupt the economy or something, when in reality
That's a nonsense. Yeah,
it's a nonsense story. I mean, because it was to do with the gilt markets and everything, which was going to happen anyway, no matter who was in charge. But that was just that was the casus belli to as a way of manipulating the Bank of England, manipulating a coup because they want to get their own person in. But yeah, that's the problem. Is it's as we know from the last century, when a good story gets hold of the popular mind, it's something that stays for generations upon generations. It's very difficult
all
to.
right. All I'm going to say about this is this. I've got to be careful because we're on YouTube. But when you talk about the grooming gang scandal in England and Wales, and to some degree in Scotland, when you talk about it, you're talking about little white English girls as young as 11 being branded and being insulted and absolutely like beaten up by Pakistanis who will call them useless white sluts. This is what the grooming gang scandal really was, right? That's what it was. Little girls being like taken from Birmingham to Manchester, from Manchester to London, from London to Liverpool, and all the time being like mass raped. And some of them were as young as 11. And Sir Keir Starmer was the public prosecutor at that time. And what he did was to make sure no Pakistanis, or almost no Pakistanis, got prosecuted for that, let alone sent to jail. And this is the true story. Like, there were cases, and quite a few, of white Anglo-Catholic British dads who went to try and save their daughters, who were arrested and sent to prison by Sir Keir Starmer. So if you vote for the Labour Party at this coming election, you're a moron, all right? Look, I hate...
Duke, we know.
Yeah. Duke,
Preaching to the crowd here.
Duke, hear me out. I've heard from Keir Starmer personally that he will deport all the Bangladeshis.
Yeah, and he won't, and you know that as well as me.
Well, apparently, like every other politician, you know, when they talk about it, it's a lie, and it is. But you know, when Keir Starmer comes around the corner, you know, tutored by Blair says it, we've got to believe it.
Never gonna happen. Never gonna happen. All right. Before
it's
I
quite
stop,
bewildering
and I'll
to
let
hear
you guys
Starmer talk about deportations.
Yeah,
like because he's not prime minister yet. He hasn't had a chance to to not fulfill that promise like the Conservatives have for 14 years.
Yeah. But I mean, this is another benefit to, like, I know people like to talk about these grandiose strategies in relation to things like zero seats, where they say, like, actually, you should be voting for Labour, not Reform, and stuff like that. But of course, the benefit to getting Reform a couple of seats, especially if it's Clacton, is you get to have them in the House constantly pushing the immigration argument for like 4 years. Yeah, you don't get, like, because of course, when David Cameron won, there was this period immediately after that election where the immigration issue got put away, and it didn't resurface until like sort of 2015. You know, and we ideally want to be in a position where we can have all the parties having to address it and talk about it all the time.
And I think the reason zero seats has gained, it's gone from a meme to what I call meme-mentum, is because those, before, like in 2015, there was a lot on the Conservative right who, because of first past the post, tactically still voted Conservative because they wanted the EU referendum. And this is why Farage has said, Labor is already won, so you may as well, if you're voted tactically Conservative in the past, you can now afford to vote for Reform because Labor's already in. You're not going to, by voting for Reform, going to let Labor in. They're already going to be in. And plus, the Conservatives, you can't believe them on anything anymore.
Well, yeah, and the thing is, as well, is that I mean, like Mitch said in the chat about you need to have the Labour sort of realign to white voters. If they lose these voting blocks, like all of these other voting blocks vote with a very clear ethnic interest in mind. White voters do shop around quite a lot. This is where you see like the falling of the red wall and stuff like that, but it's not around any sort of unified policy that half of these, you know, retarded MPs could get their head around. You know, and if you can have that be the issue of immigration or a sort of like ethnically aligned national sovereignty, you will start to see even people breaking away from within those larger parties that are trying to court that voting bloc.
It's been noted by a lot on the dissident right. The Labour Party's very white shadow cabinet team, prominent in the campaign material.
Yeah.
But this has been across the book. Sorry, carry on.
And there's, and I've heard others commentate that it's subliminal in there to appeal to, well, older traditional Brits that Look, we know that you're uncomfortable with the Indian banker being your prime minister. So look at our Indigenous Brit team. It's a lot of the Labor campaign is we're going to go back to normal. Like it's just going to be like the Tony
But
Blair
it's a lie,
managerial.
Tim.
I
It's a
know it's
lie.
a lie, but
Tim, it's
and it's a
just a
con,
lie, all
but
right?
it's
It is. Yeah.
it's good campaigning by the Labor Party. That's what I'm saying.
All right.
Yeah, I mean,
don't give a shit about that, to be honest. I will say right on Limbo is in the chat, and I like right on Limbo. And right on Limbo is a Gurkha officer's son who's serving, like his dad served in the British Army. He's a good guy. I'd give him 1,000% compared to anyone in the Labour Party who would always like either surrender or run away to any British enemy. But that's just what I would say. But look, guys, I'm sorry. You can't take this. You've got to say to the Labour Party, fuck you, you bastards. You're even worse than the
Duke,
Conservatives.
you're preaching to the crowd
which
here.
they are.
Yeah, we all understand. We're just talking about the real
Mitch.
politique that's going on behind this.
I mean,
All right, Mitch,
I know
you
you're
carry on, Mitch. You haven't said
you're
much
talking
for a
from
while.
the heart, eye,
Mitch,
Duke.
I'm sorry.
Wait,
I'm sorry. Please, can Mitch just say what he's going to say, please? And then you can have your say. Mitch, carry on, mate.
I was going to say, I can't remember who said it on Twitter. I can't remember who said it. I think it was Sargon or someone like that. But you notice in all the Labour advertising in this campaign, you notice there's a distinct lack of diversity because Starmer knows he knows the mood of the people. But that's one reason. That's one thing that terrifies me about Labour is that actually are proving some sense of competence in this election. They know not to literally rub out faces in diversity. But even David Lammy looks set to be sacked from a shadow cabinet as foreign secretary, apparently because of something he said or whatever. So
that's
I'm
very
just
sorry, that's just quickly though. That's a very recent thing though, isn't it? Because that guy who was talking about the white male tears that was running in Clacton, wasn't he put in to run there before Farage announced?
Yes, he was.
So in a way, that was also kind of like Labour up until that point, I suppose, because they thought they had a comfortable victory ahead of them.
Well, if I think they should have known the Labor Party that maybe Farage would run for that seat. It had been rumoured about for quite a while. So I think maybe they selected him to be the anti-Farage. He's standing in a seat that's 96% white and saying that he's standing for the black and brown people.
Yeah.
I mean,
they put certain candidates in certain places to rub people's noses in it, and they've changed tack like with the rise of reform because they are actually now playing to win.
Yeah, I mean, I can give you one bit of inside information here as a bit with the Tory party, is that the Tories who are going to remain in Parliament, because I doubt it will get to 0 seats, but it's going to be very few seats. But the people who are going to stay are the people who are in the what quote unquote safer seats, are the One Nation ones. So they're the worst. They're like the Alicia Kearns woman that's been doing the rounds on Twitter, or your Savage Javid types. These are the people who are who are the people who are the most who attack people like us on the right. And you see it within Conservatives and Labour that the Conservatives will flank anyone and attack anyone to the right, Labour will do the same to their radical left. And it's how they keep the centre, the centre ground, and not the centre ground. Sorry, how they keep the centre, they keep the political establishment pure from any outsiders. But I mean, at the end of the day, as I said, I mean, with 0 seats, I mean, in my understanding, the original conception by 0 seats by Academic Agent was the way to basically just create imbalance in the system. That if the Labour
vote
win
Labour.
near enough every seat, and Lib Dems win seats, and the Greens win seats, and any right and the Conservatives get
Vote
0
Labour,
seats,
yeah,
it would create crisis in Britain, because the democracy and the myth of the parliamentarism would just come crashing down around like
which was
like the
bollocks,
Eye of
of
Sauron or
course.
something.
Utter bollocks, of course, but that's what he claimed, yeah. But it was
I mean,
utter
that happened.
bollocks.
That did happen though. That did happen in Canada with the Conservatives, and I'd be interesting to know if there's people.
Really? That happened in Canada? Yeah. Look at Canada,
well, they got
one of the worst old Commonwealth country in the entire world. Yeah, all right. It happened in Canada. I don't believe that. Not for 1 second.
All
Well,
the
it
end
happened in-
result
hold-
was in Canada
hold
was
on. I haven't finished talking.
All right.
It happened in Canada because they went down to 3 seats. As a result of that, you had a realignment of centre rights. The centre right did come back because there wasn't a Farage figure that we have now. There wasn't anything else to latch on to. But my point is, it'd be interesting to see what if there's any people in chat who are from who are Canadian or might remember that particular event, like what was the outfall of that at the time. I believe it was a 93 election.
Didn't work, did it?
Well, no, but how did the establishment?
Good British people, AI, all good British people are hoping that the Canadians will keep. They will keep the idiot who keeps wandering around with these Jewish flags, with his enormous support from a Jewish channel. We all hope that Canada will keep him. Tommy Robinson will never come back. Although I've been slagged off by some right-wing Canadians for saying that. But I mean, that's the truth. I mean, Tommy Robinson, I just hope he stays in Canada forever and never comes home. He's a Zionist moron, and he doesn't really care about Britain.
I thought that Tommy Robinson, with the rally that he did and the rally that's upcoming, he had come back to his old self. But with the going to Canada and then getting arrested, and then the Rebel News GoFundMe, it was just facepalm, not this again.
Tommy needs more money. Send us your money, boys.
But it's this always annoys me about Rebel News have done this grift too. I get arrested, play the victim, and then see the donations come in, and they get it shared by Andy. No, look what's happened to Tommy Robinson, or who's always getting arrested in Canada for Rebel News, that David Menzies They've got
Yep.
and obviously here in Australia, Avi Yemeni, when he got arrested at rallies, GoFundMe ready to go.
Apparently, I heard someone saying he's got an Irish passport. Is that real, or is that just a meme or something?
Oh yeah.
That'd be hilarious if it was
I'm-
real.
I am just surprised he doesn't have an Israeli passport. Because if he had an Israeli passport, he would never get any problems. So yeah.
That said, though, I'm gonna head off.
Can I just say, right on Limbo in the chat, mate? I want to send you the link, but you're not on my Discord anymore, and I don't know how to do it. I'm trying.
I think he posted his email above. But
I know I saw that, but do me a favor, Alman, you're my friend.
Yeah.
Please put it in the Discord, and then I'll use it to allow Limbo to come on. Because Limbo is my mate. I've got no problem with having him on this Discord.
I've sent it to you on Discord in chat, but I need to head off. I've got to get up quite early in the morning. So
all right.
It's been
Many
short,
thanks for joining us, Salmon. But yeah, the idea that Tommy Robinson is a British nationalist is just crazy these days. It's ridiculous. I keep telling the Canadians, I hope you keep him. Because, you know, who wants him back in Britain? I don't. Sorry.
So
I just don't.
Tommy Robinson was back when I was a postmodernist liberal back 15 years ago. Tommy Robinson was my red pill because he was able to communicate, because he basically is a liberal, that, hey, if you want this postmodern liberal society, you can't have Islam, and the more people that come in from the Islamic world, the less liberal our society is going to be. And because Tommy Robinson is a civic nationalist, the old that racist Nazi label couldn't be applied to him. I mean, sure, it was made, but it couldn't be substantiated. And so, obviously, that's still Tommy Robinson. For years, he was marginalised, though the Overton window has shifted, that he does have a lot more mainstream support than he did back 10 years ago. So I still think that's a good thing.
Well, the Mossad money helps, I guess.
Yeah. Well said. Well said, AI. Well said. That's totally my own opinion. He gets a lot of money from Israeli intelligence. So yeah, I agree.
What I was going to say about the so-called Canadian Conservative realignment, all that seems to have happened is that the Progressive Conservative Party in Canada at the federal level just became the Conservatives. It was just a rebrand. And if there is, there's been talk that of like, would a merged party be called the Reformed Conservative Party? And if it's just a Canadian merger 2.0, then that will certainly disappoint a lot of, particularly the Zoomer nationalists, if it is just some sort of merger and you have all of the rump of the Conservatives just jump ship.
Which I think will happen. because beyond Parliament, you've got police and crime commissioners, you've got councillors, you've got all these district councils, you've got all these county councils, different levels of elected Conservatives. I mean, what's going to happen to them if, say, the Conservative Party did like implode, collapse, and you know, and it is a very real possibility because from my understanding,
AI?
they've run
Is
out of money.
there
They've run out
a
of money.
real AI? Is there a real Conservative Party in Canada? Because I don't think there is really. It's
Well,
like
the closest thing you had to a I think the closest thing you had to a right wing was that French Canadian guy who created his own.
mhm.
Well, what was his name? Because they targeted him during COVID. That's how I remember.
Yeah.
I forgot his
Maxine,
name.
I can't. He's got a French surname.
But Maxime Bernier or something like that. Is that it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds right. The People's
Sounds
Party,
Maxime
isn't it?
Bernier. Yeah. That's the closest thing that I could think to as being somewhat right wing-ish in that regard. The only reason I remember him is because when you had, there's a result of BLM, you had also that weird moment in Canada where they were finding all these quote unquote native children bodies in these old schools, boarding schools.
Yeah, which was a total lie.
Yeah, which was
a
a total lie.
Total lie.
Because
I mean, if you go to any AI, if you go to any 19th century cemetery, you will find huge numbers of little kids who died when they were little kids in the late 19th century. The idea that the Canadian Catholic Church deliberately killed them is an absolute lie, and a lie that no one with a working brain can possibly agree with. It's just a fucking lie, you know?
Yeah, it was a lie that was created, and that's how I heard Maxime Bernier, because he was the one that was sort of breaking it down and saying, "Well, you're going into it's not." They made it sound like this was actually in like the walls and stuff like like that serial killer couple here in the UK all those years ago. All these bodies were found like in like the cellars under the school. It wasn't. It was in a graveyard near the school. And it's like, well, yeah, if you're digging up in a graveyard, you're going to find bodies of adults, children, elderly people. Yeah, obviously.
I'm
But the
pretty
trouble
sure. I'm pretty sure that Tim will agree with me that like you can go to any late 19th century graveyard in Australia and you will find loads and loads and loads of little kids, very small and young children, who died because back then loads and loads and loads of small children died. The idea that somehow the Catholic Church killed loads of Native Americans or Native Canadians or whatever the fuck that liberal scumbag Trudeau calls them these days. The idea that they were killed deliberately is a complete lie. It's just a complete, utter lie.
Well, they called them mass graves. This was the language that was used, i.e., they were mass murdered.
Yeah, because they use the rhetoric. They use the rhetoric. I mean, they just straight up use the rhetoric of the Holocaust. This is the linguistic phraseology that is used whenever they want to pull on the heartstrings of the Holocaust and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, that's what they did.
It was just a lie, though. Just a total lie. In the late 19th century, a lot of kids used to die. They just did.
There was actual pandemics and deadly
Yeah, it
real
was just
deadly
where
diseases
the
back
medicine
then.
was then. It was just where the medicine was there. There was no evidence. Never has been any evidence. Never will be any evidence that where the Catholic nuns or Catholic priests or Protestant priests or anybody else killed Native Canadians, Native Australians, or any other people. They didn't. They just didn't. Loads of kids did used to die back then. That's what happened. And you can go and see the richest bastards in Britain or Australia or Canada or New Zealand or anywhere else. And loads of their kids used to die when they were very young in the late 19th century because that's the way things used to happen. It was. Don't believe it? Get fucked. Then you're an idiot.
Canada's general election is due, I think, around October next year. FYI.
Yeah, I think so. Hopefully this
Um,
time they'll chuck out Trudeau. I just don't know how he survived
I
as long as he has.
I think like in this country, I think the establishment are sort of giving it to that was a Potier chap? That Potier, was he called something Potier or
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, but he seems to be given like a bit more free reign than anyone else has done in the past. So obviously I guess he's got the go ahead. Iron Duke. I'm gonna have to head off now, Iron Duke. So thank you for having me on, and I will see you next
You're
time.
most welcome, mate. Go
You're
on.
welcome on the election results stream on Thursday, Friday.
Oh yes, the election. Yeah, yeah, that would be yeah, that would be. I guess that's like an all night. That'd be an all nighter one, I imagine, or as the results come in.
Yeah, it'll be a
Pretty much.
5 or 6 hour stream, mate. You are
Yeah.
more than welcome to join us if
Yeah.
you want to
I
for
doubt-
a bit of it.
I doubt I'll be able to do the full length of it, but yeah, I'll drop in.
No,
Maybe.
I do. AI,
Yeah,
I don't expect anyone to do 6 hours. If you can
Yes.
do an hour or an hour and a half or half an hour, you're more than welcome.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see how it comes in. As I say, it'd be interesting to see how reform does do in my area. Anyway, thanks
I
for having
just
me on, and I will
hope
see
reform
you
does
later on.
well. That's our only chance, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like Farage is way not perfect, but you know what? Everyone else is even worse. So that's my view, anyway.
Agreed.
Yeah. All right. Good night, guys.
Good
All
night.
right, go well, AI. I'd like to ask Mitch. Mitch, what did you have a first subject you wanted to bring up this evening?
I don't know if we want to bother talking about the farrago of crap that is Biden in the latest debate.
Go for it, mate. Go for it.
Well, what is there to say? I mean, the guy is just like it's like someone just dug him up. It's like his wife Jill, literally just dug him up from a 6-foot grave and just put a saying piece on him. So even after the election, after the debate was done, you could just tell, like, he couldn't even get off a stage properly. Like, he had to be held by his wife, and you could clearly tell that the only reason he's in the White House is because his wife Jill is addicted to being in the White House. Like, she's addicted to having, that distinction of being the first lady, as well as other people around the Democrat Party. Because the Democrat Party is completely devoid of talent. Like, it's just a gaggle of retards just arguing about how Trump's a racist or whatever.
It was everyone was mocking her afterwards, saying you answered every question, Joe. Because remember, she's a doctor of education, so she's a teacher. It's like she was talking to one of her students.
She had to grab him by the arm and usher him off the stage. Like, there is video of this. She had to grab him by the arm and usher him off the stage very gently afterwards. It was like, this dude is supposed to be the leader of the so-called, in air quotes, free world. I mean, come on. Like, after that debate, anyone who believes that Biden is the leader of the USA, I think they should be probably stuck in a lunatic asylum, quite frankly, because he just isn't,
Yeah, did you see all the media reports? Just like literally going, wow, the right wingers turned out to be right. Like, Biden really is addicted.
Oh, they didn't admit that the right was right. It was a new revelation to them.
Yeah.
It's just
fair enough.
Like, I just don't see where the goal from this are, because apparently some people are floating the idea that he might get replaced by Gavin Newsom, but endorsed him.
I think because Joe Biden's not going to quit. He's got too much pride, even though he's.
Well, I think
he's
his
got some
wife
sort of
wants to hang in there. I don't think Joe Biden has any clue if he is or is not the president of the USA. I don't think Joe Biden knows about that, but his wife wants to hang in there for sure. I don't think Joe Biden has any clue if he's president of the of the USA. I just don't think he has any idea.
If the Democrats want to replace him, I think they'll have to euthanize him, put him down, have a mix-up with the drugs, maybe.
Good. I hope they do.
That's the only way.
Well, good. That will save quite a few people's lives. But yeah, I think you're probably right. But then look at the other Democrat candidates. I mean, you got that absolute trash wank from California who everyone is trying to escape. Gavin Newsom.
Which one? I thought you meant Kamala Harris.
Yeah, I think Gavin Newsom. Kamala Harris is just a flop. And as far as I can tell, like, she got where she is from giving blowjobs before, when she was younger and cuter, but that's where she got. She's desperately clinging on to that vice president thing, but she's so stupid. Like, you can ask her anything and like she'll not give you a good answer. So
her on-the-job sex was more advantageous than that prison guard from Wandsworth, which is, if you wanted another sign of Britain's decline. Have you seen that or heard of it?
No, mate. Do tell me.
Oh, so it was going viral last night. She was actually featured, her and her husband, in a Channel 4 documentary about couples who, like, see other people. She's been a prison guard who was filmed having sex with an inmate. It's
Oh,
basically a full
yeah.
sex
I've
tape.
heard about that. I've heard
Yeah.
about
So how did she get the job in the first place? Like, it's
that.
just
I don't.
another. It's just another sign of the decline and decadence that, well, not only did that happen in a prison, but it was filmed.
Oh, yeah. Look, I fully accept that. But Britain pales into insignificance to when you think that Kamala Harris, who is the vice president of the USA, she got a job basically from giving blowjobs when she was younger and cuter than she is now. So, I mean, yeah, people doing stuff in prisons is bad. Of course it is. But the vice president of the USA got a job for doing blowjobs when she was much prettier than she is now. But she's very reluctant to be removed as vice president. But, in some ways, this is quite funny. You got
Well,
Joe
that's
Biden.
the problem.
Joe Biden is like, what can you say about Joe Biden? Like, he's a moron who has lost his brain because he's senile,
And it's, well, the deep state running the country, or it's, well, it's Obama's team who are running the White House, because all the White House appointees, cabinet appointees, it's basically been Obama term 3.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, then there's the rumors about Michelle Obama being the candidate, which, if Michelle Obama did become the presidential candidate, have to address the Big Mike rumors.
That's true. Yep. You're not wrong, mate. You're not wrong.
It has been interesting that, because Bridget Macron is suing over the reporting that she is a he, but Michelle Obama has never sued over the Big Mike accusations.
Makes sense. Oh, look, I think the truth is that Macron's missus is like his 25-year-old senior and his teacher. But if you're going to look at, like, the guy who was, I think, very likely born in Kenya rather than America. But if you're going to look at that, he and his so-called missus, who knows what you might find? Who knows? I have no idea. You might find some very strange things.
Well, there was the mysterious death of their chef last year drowning in a lake off Martha's Vineyard.
And was Hillary Clinton anywhere close to that?
Well, the Clinton chef died mysteriously as well in a hiking accident.
That's a surprise. Who would imagine?
Well, look what happened to Putin's chef.
Look at the leader of the Western free, in inverted commas, worlds, like screwing kids, which was the guy who was sent to prison. And supposedly, when everyone was not looking at their camera, died from hanging himself from almost no distance. We can all believe that's true, can't we? I mean, as
Which
if they would
the
lie
bed
to us.
sheets were supposed to be so you
Yeah.
couldn't hang yourself.
Yeah, but we would all agree that, that this guy who was running the place where all the Western leaders and most rich people went to go to like have sex with kids under 16, he just killed himself. And who could believe it in an American prison? No one could possibly believe it.
This this transition from, pardon the pun, the conversation from Michelle Obama to Epstein reminds me of the meme that I saw on Michelle Obama hung, Epstein not hung.
Pretty much. Totally agree with you, mate. Totally agree with you. But bear in mind, all of the civilians listening to us, this is just a conspiracy theory, all right? There is no chance whatsoever that Epstein was working for Mossad and the CIA and everyone was like in their list. There's no chance that was true. It was just nonsense. Just like there is no chance whatsoever that Michelle Obama ain't actually female. No chance. It's all a lie. We're on YouTube, boys, and we believe what we're told.
I think these, I've discussed these on my Unshackled programs. Michelle Obama, Big Mike, and Epstein, and, well, let's not forget his girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell, son of Robert Maxwell, double agent in Britain for
But he
Mossad.
was not chucked over the side of his yacht by Mossad because Mossad didn't trust him anymore. That never happened. All right. He did jump over the side of his yacht, but that had nothing to do with the Mossad. All right. Remember that.
It was when his empire was collapsing, and some might remember that a young Labour MP, George Galloway, was able to use parliamentary privilege because Robert Maxwell sued his critics into oblivion, and so was able to...
Sorry, mate. Carry on.
And so George Galloway raised the allegation that his foreign editor at the Mirror at the time was a gun runner, and so the media could report what George Galloway was saying about Robert Maxwell in Parliament without threat of being sued, and that was. That apart from the business collapse, that was the beginning of his downfall. Well, downfall off the yacht, his yacht.
Say it wasn't so. Honestly, Jim, say it wasn't so. I mean, the idea that the bloke who ran the Daily Mirror was actually an anti-British Jewish agent working for Israel. No, we can't possibly believe that, honestly.
Even though that's what British intelligence believes.
How can that be true? Yeah, I mean, obviously they were talking nonsense. It was like, no, not a chance. And no way did Israeli intelligence agents from Mossad, chuck him over the side of his own yacht because he became more of a bad thing than a good thing at some stage. Never happened. And his daughter was not involved with Epstein in trying to get as many Western leaders as possible involved with doing stuff with underage girls. Israel would never do this. You know, they just wouldn't. They'd never do it. And anyone who thinks they would is like, I don't know. I can't even just. They're probably literally Adolf Hitler. Anyone who thinks that that would happen is probably literally Adolf Hitler. And he's just waiting to kill 6 guerrillion Jewish people. That's my view, anyway. YouTube notice that's my view.
I find that I'm still getting videos removed from 2020 interviews where we discussed COVID.
Yeah, I still get that, mate.
Yeah, that's... And I almost lost the Wilms Front and Unshackled YouTube channels because of, too much vaccine talk. Even when I was just quoting what our politicians like
they're still
Jared
doing
Rennick.
it. Tim, they're still doing it. YouTube is the last bit of the globalist system, which is still going on about the China virus nonsense. They're the last bit and the worst bit. But it's like if you put anything on YouTube about supposed utter nonsense, by the way, global warming, YouTube will put their global warming sign on you.
Doesn't it link to Wikipedia?
Yeah, it's always a link to Wikipedia, which, I mean, you know, like I do a lot of history, and like Wikipedia is probably the worst history channel you could possibly find, but yeah, absolutely.
And also looking up any far right figure on Wikipedia.
Yeah, true. Very true. Very true, Tim. Tim, I don't know. I think unless you've got anything else to say, we probably run out of subjects for now. I would just like to say to people, we will be back. And when I say we, I mean Tim and I, on Thursday evening if you're in Britain, Friday morning if you're in Australia, and we'll look at the election from a Anglo-Australian nationalist point of view. All right.
Yep, we've got also joining us Harry Richardson, president of the British Australian community, who are doing
who is
great
a good group,
great education work on social media. They are really getting a lot of traction, which is excellent to see.
Yep.
And we will have other panelists who will join us throughout the evening/morning and overnight/afternoon UK Australian time, respectively. So we're going to try and simulcast both on your channel here, Iron Duke, and also the Unshackled channel. There's a way for guests to stream to their own channels, I know, with the StreamYard software. So I'll have to coordinate with you, walk you through, I think, the Boomer Tech.
For sure. I am totally boomer sake, mate. Honest. That's my signature move is big boomer tech. I'm not joking. But yeah.
And my regular Tim's News Explosion, which is on Monday evenings on my Wilms Front channels at 9 p.m. Australian Eastern Time, that'll actually be on Tuesday. So because I'm going to Tucker Carlson in Melbourne on Monday evening. So it's the first event that I've been to for many years. I sort of swore off events because a lot of them, well, was in my opinion, became too intellectually dark web pompous, to use that British term. But Tucker Carlson is certainly not pompous, so I'm looking forward to. I don't know whether the local Melbourne Antifa campaign against racism, fascism, whatever group, the Melbourne Queer NARM Collective or whatever, will be staging some sort of counter protest against Tucker for some reason, whether they'll make an effort or something. Even though, well, Tucker is sympathetic to the Palestinians, which is their pet cause. So, but yeah, I'll hopefully be able to do some vlogging there. And I've also got a Wilms Front interview tonight with another libertarian nationalist, up and comer, Viking Dunder, who is prominent for his vlogs on Twitter, X, Instagram, and TikTok. His real name is Lachlan Lade. So always like to promote new voices. So looking forward to interviewing him. That'll be at 9 p.m. Australian Eastern Time tonight on my Wilms Front channel. I should make sure that I put the link into my channel into the live chat here before we finish off. Get my cross promotion in.
Go for it, man. Don't worry. No one cares. Go for it.
So it's going to be a big week. And obviously there's a lot of other news that has been happening here in Australia. Obviously, Julian Assange finally coming home a free man. And there's been a lot of neoconservative tears over on Sky News Australia, I've noticed.
Yeah, fair enough. I always worry about Sky News Australia. And except people tell me this is the right-wing Australian TV channel. And I always go, is it really? Yes,
I mean, it's pretty much the same as Talk TV in terms of
Yep.
the
Very
talking
right-wing,
points.
yeah.
All the, it's termed Sky After Dark opinion hosts pretty much have the same the same, I'd call, intellectual dark web views. And I've shared my views before on the intellectual dark web led by people like Konstantin Kissin of trigonometry, Claire Lehman of Quillette. It's just a new way to guide people who have counter narrative views into neoconservatism, supporting wars in Ukraine and Israel as a proxy for, and how can I leave out Douglas Murray as a
Never leave out Douglas Murray, for God's sake.
as supporting wars as a form of like, this is a battle of civilization, like, and these are all studio boys and girls. They're not on the front lines where all the death and destruction is.
Am I correct in saying that you're German heritage Australian? Yeah.
Yes, Wilms is a German name.
I thought so. Could you please do me a favor, because I want to play it? Send me an Ausländer Rausch link, please.
I think I sent you one.
You have before, I know, but I just want one now, because I want to play this as we end the stream, which is why I'm asking you to do that. Because, yeah.
I'm not on my, in case
I'm trying to find one, and I can't at the moment.
In case people are not aware, I'm not in my studio. I'm coming in remote in this early morning, so I don't have my.
All right.
I can't.
All right. Let me
send one through.
Maybe I can. Maybe I can find one. Wait a minute.
Are you trying to find it on YouTube?
Yeah. Carry on talking, Tim, please.
You're more likely to find it on
Twitter. I'm trying to find it on Discord, actually.
Because that's where I'm trying to find it on
Discord right now.
The Elon Musk X it's made show research to bring like what is really happening so much better. Like, for example, on the Elon Musk X, that's where the alleged dancing Israelis news reports resurfaced after 9/11. Like, remember, that had been a meme for years about the dancing Israelis on 9/11, which was that 5 Mossad agents who they were spotted filming the Twin Towers coming down and looking happy, according to a witness, and they became the dancing Israelis. There was never under old social media management, Twitter management, you could not find any evidence of the alleged dancing Israelis. But now the news reports after 9/11 are all over Twitter X now. So
true.
It can't just be dismissed now as a anti-Semitic line.
No. Totally agree. Okay, where is this? No, it's...
I saw that Paul Joseph Watson did one of his mini modernity reports on. There's that French song which is being adopted as their version of Ausländer Rausch.
Yep.
And these young French Zoomer women are lip syncing to it.
Well, I guess that's good. Rather than doing other things with their lips, it's pretty cool.
They've got we should mention before we go, the French first round of voting June the 30th. So today, and then the second round. I covered on my last Tim's News Explosion show the blackmail, pardon the pun, of some of the black African French football players, most notably Kylian Mbappe, who, well, if the French voters and especially the youth vote for National Rally, then we're not going to play for France. No more World Cups.
Me, I'd send them all home and lose the World Cup for the next 100 years, not care, frankly.
Because
I don't know about you, Tim, but that's what I would do. I would say, fuck off, go back to your shithole.
My previous view was
I don't care about
because
the World Cup.
the only way in my opinion, the Socceroos can ever win the World Cup is like France have with a team full of Africans, and we're getting like obviously the big hope for the Socceroos is that Tanzanian-born teenager Nestoroi Irakunda. But already he basically was able to blackmail his way into the Socceroos, saying that, well, if I'm not selected for the upcoming qualifiers, I'll play for Tanzania. And Graham Arnold, the Socceroos coach, was like, okay, you're in the side.
And I would have sent him to play for Tanzania. But that's just me. I would have got like some Australian boy to play for Australia, and I would have sent him to play for Tanzania. That's what I would have done. But I mean, apparently not. I mean, I don't get this. I just don't. It's
my opinion.
If you're
up
African
until
guys win you the World Cup or the European Cup, you haven't really won it. It's been won by African guys.
My previous position was, if the Socceroos win a World Cup with a team full of Africans, I'll take it because it'd still be good for national morale. But if they're going to start putting conditions on playing for the Socceroos, like, oh, well, I'm not going to play if there's that party is voted for, or because it has been until recently, you play for your country no matter who the leader is, because I mean, we have no respect for our political leaders, but we still have pride in our countries.
Yeah. Weird to me, mate.
Although in women's soccer football, you can win a World Cup with an all-white team or a European Championship.
But they're not very good.
Well, compared to all the other female teams, they were saying their lionesses who made the Women's World Cup final were too white.
I think it's a joke, mate. I really do. But whatever. I don't watch sports ball. Haven't watched it. I used to be an enormous, and I mean an enormous, cricket and rugby union fan, but I don't watch it anymore. I just don't. It's bread and circuses. It's designed to make us dumb and not listen and not watch and not learn. And women's sport is just crap anyway. But care about women's sport, the idea that mentally ill guys should be able to go and do it, well, that's even more crap, you know. But that's my view on that stuff. People may do what they wish, but my own opinion is, it's just nonsense. I finally found what I was looking for, by the way.
I found an Auslander Ross.
Auslander Rouse, which I know you like, given you've played it. But yeah, I think I have now found.
Well, it's been pretty white pilling as a Australian of German heritage to see the youth of Germany unafraid, despite all of the indoctrination that they have, that because of a bad 12 years in German history, they should feel ashamed to be German. Like they're not feeling the, like, you know, they're not feeling the guilt for things that they didn't do. And they've noticed in their lifetime how the Germany they grew up in has completely changed. Germany has got their next federal election in 2025, and Alternative for Deutschland is coming second in the opinion polling. Iron Duke's gone, it's just me, though the stream's still going. Something must have happened, Boomer Tech, where he found the video and then he logged himself out. So notice it's just me on the screen. I assume he'll come back. I assume that he will know how to come back. So yeah, he was looking up for Auslander Ross video on YouTube. He's okay. He's just locked himself out of the stream, that is. If he can let us know in the actual chat what's happened to him, if he's going to be able to make it back in. I don't know, because I normally am the host of streams, not a guest. If I left now, does that automatically end the stream, or does it just keep keep going because the host hasn't technically ended it? And now for our UK general election live stream, I'm going to put together, because I'm much more tech savvy than Iron Duke, going to put together, because it will be a long stream, some video ad breaks of the campaign best bits or worst bits, because it has been quite a both extraordinary and entertaining campaign. Obviously, there's, well, I don't need to make my own montage of compilation of all the times Sir Keir Starmer said his dad was a toolmaker. Other people have done that for us. And does anyone remember when the audience laughed at the, I think it was the ITV debate, where he said, yeah, my dad was a toolmaker, and he said, it's true, it's not a laughing matter. And he told the GB News political editor later on that it brought up childhood trauma for him, because his dad was sneered at for being a toolmaker. Never mind that they actually ran the factory. Andrew still hasn't made it back on here. Maybe something's died, his computer's died. I'm also checking the Discord to see if he's there. I'll just message him. If not, I might just have to end the stream. Otherwise, it's just going to be me talking forever. And because it's not my own stream. Like when you're a guest on somebody's stream, you've got them to bounce off and run things. So I don't actually have my own list of things. So I'm all just basically padding here. But I may as well, before I leave, put the link to, if you haven't subscribed to I will be on Eastern Standard Time, which is midnight over in the UK, where I've got a featured interview show, as I mentioned before, and also on Tuesday evening. It's normally on Monday evening. My Tim's News Explosion show, also at 9 p.m. Australian Eastern Time, which at the moment is 12 a.m. UK time. So I put the link in there. So thank you for watching today. I'm going to leave now. Thank you all so much for watching. Thank you to Iron Duke for hosting, and thank you to all of the contributors. Good night and good day, wherever you are in the Anglosphere. And I hope to see you all again very soon.